Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. When you hear these words, you can almost feel Jung piercing straight through the illusions we live under. Because every night, before you close your eyes, there is a hidden moment, brief, fragile, but powerful enough to change the course of your entire life. It is the threshold between wakefulness and sleep, between the noise of the conscious mind and the depth of the unconscious. And what you carry into that moment does not disappear. It sinks into the deepest layers of your psyche, shaping your dreams, your emotions, and even the way you live your days. Carl Jung understood this more than anyone. He saw the unconscious not as an enemy to suppress, but as a guide waiting to be heard, a force that speaks to us through symbols and dreams. And he believed that how you enter sleep determines whether you stumble blindly into the night or step consciously into a deeper truth about yourself. This is why Jung gave us a simple, life-changing rule before sleep, an intentional way of closing the day that can transform not only your nights, but your entire life. And if you're here listening now, it means you're someone searching for more than the surface of life. You're seeking depth, meaning, and real change. If that's you, then I'd love for you to join this journey. Subscribe, not just to follow a channel, but to be part of a space where we explore the wisdom that can truly transform the way we see ourselves and the world. Every night, as the world begins to quiet down and the day slowly releases its grip on you, your mind is entering one of the most overlooked yet powerful transitions of human experience. The passage from conscious awareness into the vast, mysterious territory of the unconscious. Carl Jung paid particular attention to this fragile threshold because he understood something most of us forget. The last thoughts you carry into sleep are not random, nor do they simply vanish as you drift off. They are seeds, and like seeds, they take root in the fertile soil of your unconscious mind. Neuroscience today even confirms what Jung intuited. As you fall asleep, your brain shifts from the chatter of the conscious into slower waves that open the gates of the subconscious. In this space, the line between waking reality and inner truth begins to blur. Jung saw this moment as a sacred doorway, a rare opportunity when the mask of the ego softens, when the rigid control of logic weakens, and when the deeper layers of the self, the ones we often bury beneath distractions, responsibilities, and noise, begin to rise. That is why he believed the thoughts, emotions, and images you choose to carry into sleep matter profoundly. And here lies the intimate connection with dreams. To Jung, dreams were never meaningless fragments of nonsense. They were symbolic letters written by the unconscious, carrying messages about your inner conflicts, hidden desires, or unrealized potentials. What you think, feel, or dwell upon before closing your eyes has a way of imprinting itself into these dreams, shaping the symbols that emerge in the night. If you fall asleep anxious, restless, filled with resentment or fear, your unconscious will reflect that back in images of chaos, nightmares, or restless nights that leave you more drained than restored. But if you step into sleep with presence, with intention, with a sense of openness to your inner world, your unconscious will meet you differently. The symbols it sends will be richer, more revealing, and sometimes even healing. Jung believed this nightly dialogue between waking thoughts and dream images was one of the most direct ways we could deepen our understanding of ourselves. It was never about controlling dreams, but about listening to what they reveal, and that listening begins before the dream even arrives. This is why the moment before sleep is so critical. It is not just the ending of your day, it is the beginning of the night's work of the psyche. Think about the choices you make in those final minutes. Do you scroll endlessly, comparing yourself to strangers on glowing screens? Do you replay arguments in your head, fueling anger that has nowhere to go? Do you let worries about tomorrow colonize your last breath of today? If you do, you are feeding the unconscious with poison, planting seeds of unrest that will sprout into unease, poor sleep, and an undercurrent of tension that quietly shapes your moods and decisions. But you also have another choice. You can enter that moment differently, by pausing, by reflecting, by choosing a thought or feeling that carries meaning instead of noise. When you do this, you are not simply relaxing before bed. You are engaging in one of the most powerful psychological practices Jung ever hinted at, consciously influencing the material that will shape your unconscious landscape. And when you plant seeds of calm, gratitude, or reflection, the soil of your mind responds. Dreams become less like chaotic fragments and more like mirrors offering guidance. Sleep becomes not just rest but renewal, and your waking life begins to change because every morning you rise carrying the harvest of what you planted the night before. This is why Jung emphasized that the threshold before sleep should never be wasted. It is not a throwaway moment, not a time to numb yourself until exhaustion overtakes you. It is an invitation, a small but mighty space where you can choose how to relate to your inner life. You can stumble into it blindly and let unresolved anxieties dictate your night, or you can walk through it with awareness, planting intention into the deepest layers of yourself. For Jung, this was not just psychology, it was soul work. It was the recognition that our unconscious is not a dark hole to be feared, but a living partner that responds to the quality of our attention. And each night, in that fragile pause before sleep, you are given a chance to decide. Will you feed your inner life chaos, or will you feed it meaning? Carl Jung's rule before sleep was never about complex rituals or lofty philosophies. It was about honesty. Before you close your eyes, take just a minute or two to sit with yourself without distraction, without running away. Jung believed that this short pause, this act of awareness, can change the texture of your entire inner life. In those quiet moments, you simply observe. What thoughts are clinging to you from the day? What emotions are still unsettled inside you? Most of us rush past them, numbing ourselves with noise or collapsing into unconsciousness, but Jung insisted that facing them directly, even for a breath, is the beginning of transformation. You don't need to solve them, you don't need to judge them, you only need to acknowledge them, because acknowledgement is the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. And in that moment, Jung suggested you ask yourself a question that sounds simple but carries great depth. What is my unconscious trying to tell me today? By holding that question, you open a doorway for your inner world to speak, not in immediate answers, but in the language of dreams, symbols, and subtle insights that unfold during the night. There are practical ways to embody this, ways Jung himself would recognize as aligned with his approach. One is writing. Keep a notebook by your bed, and before you sleep, jot down the last thought or feeling that lingers in your mind. It doesn't need to be polished or logical. It could be as raw as, "I felt lonely today," or "I'm grateful for the conversation I had," or even just a fragment of an image that won't leave you. By putting it on paper, you are not only releasing it from the chaos of your thoughts, but also creating a record that will later help you connect the dots between what you felt before sleep and what your dreams reveal after. Another practice is a simple form of meditation. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and allow the stream of images, memories, and impressions to rise and fall without trying to hold or resist them. This is not about clearing the mind, but about watching it, letting it show you what lies beneath the surface. In that openness, your unconscious begins to speak more freely, because it no longer meets resistance. And sometimes, instead of writing or meditating, you can simply ask a question. What do I need to understand about myself today? Don't force an answer. Trust that your unconscious will reply in its own time, whether through a dream at night or a sudden realization in the morning. Jung believed that the psyche is always communicating. Our task is simply to listen. The effects of this nightly practice may not seem dramatic at first, but they are profound. Over time, you begin to notice that your nights feel different. Instead of chaotic or meaningless dreams, your unconscious starts to offer you images that carry weight, symbols that speak to your personal journey. You wake not only more rested, but more connected to yourself, to your emotions, to the deeper layers of meaning in your life. This simple act of presence before sleep brings a kind of inner clarity, because it interrupts the cycle of blindly carrying stress and unresolved feelings into the night. Instead, you cultivate a habit of turning inward, of planting seeds of awareness and meaning in the soil of your mind. Those seeds grow into a stronger sense of self, into dreams that guide rather than confuse, and into mornings where you feel more aligned rather than fragmented. And, perhaps most importantly, you begin to see beyond the mask of the persona, that social identity we all wear in public, and glimpse the authentic self beneath it. Jung warned that without such practices, we risk living entirely on the surface, mistaking the mask for the soul. But with this simple nightly ritual, you create space to hear the voice of the deeper self, the one that speaks in whispers you can only catch when the world grows quiet. That is why Jung's rule before sleep is not trivial. It is a doorway into wholeness. In the end, what we've discovered tonight is that sleep is not just a physical pause, not just a way to recharge the body. It is a bridge into the deepest layers of your psyche. Carl Jung reminded us that the unconscious is always speaking, and the final thoughts you carry before sleep decide what kind of dialogue you will have with it. His rule is simple but transformative. What you plant in your mind before you close your eyes will become the seeds of your awareness tomorrow. That means every night you are given a choice. You can carry chaos into your dreams, or you can carry intention, meaning, and clarity. If you want to change your life, change that final moment before you close your eyes. Give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, to listen. Because in that silence, you are shaping not only your night, but the direction of your entire being. So tonight, try this rule. Sit with yourself honestly. Write down your last thought. Breathe into your emotions, and then notice how your dreams shift, how your mornings feel lighter, how your soul feels closer to you. And if you felt that this message spoke to you, if it stirred something within, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, not just to follow content, but to join a journey into Jung's wisdom and the timeless truths that help us live more consciously, more deeply, more alive.